And this is actually a slide I stole from the Fidelity guy. It's kind of fun to steal your own studies slides. So anyway, and what we found in this study was that more people were attracted to the larger choice set, so that 60% of the passers-by stopped when they were 24 versus 40% stopped when there were 6 different jams. But when it came down to purchasing behavior, of the 60% who stopped when they were 24, only 3% of them actually bought a jar of jam. By contrast, of the 40% who stopped when there were 6 jars of jam, 30% of them actually bought a jar of jam. So in this case, they were 6 times more likely to actually buy a jar of jam when they were choosing from a fewer set of options than when they were choosing from a larger set of options. Well, this study raised the hypothesis that perhaps the presence of more choice was appealing in theory, or at least as an idea. But when it actually came down to having to make the very difficult thing of deciding, people might find having more and more options to be rather debilitating. Well, there's been lots of studies that have been conducted since then, ranging from chocolates to magazines to coffees, all different types of consumer products, including online dating venues and speed dating venues, to give you a sense of the variety, that have replicated the quote-unquote too much choice problem. And some have even gone so far as to suggest that this act of choosing not to choose, or delaying, or procrastinating in the face of having more and more options can even be suboptimal. So I'm going to show you one of my studies, which relates to some of the interests in this room, because it suggests some policy ramifications. So this is a study in which Amir Kamenika and I, an economist, we looked at the effects of more choice on people's 401k participation rates. And as you know, it's really in your best interest to participate in your 401k plans. Not only do you get to put away a certain percentage of your salary into a tax shelter, so you actually save some money there, but on top of that, more often than not, your employers match you dollar for dollar. So literally, if you don't participate in your 401k plans, you are throwing away free money. And so that even if you really don't know what to choose, and if you figure, oh, well, I don't really know which one's the best, even if you're in that situation, at least theoretically, if you simply roll the die and choose any option, you still should have more cash in the end than if you choose not to choose. And what we observed by looking at the participation decisions, and this is from 2001, so the market wasn't as bad then, when you looked at the participation decisions of 800,000 people from 647 different plans, and these plans ranged in their fund offerings anywhere from 2 to about 60, we saw a decline in participation rates as a function of the number of options offered. So from a regression analysis, we found that for every 10 funds offered, there was about a 2% decline in participation rates. And this has, if you look at national averages over the years, it continues to be the case that people are not taking advantage of their 401k plans to the extent that you would hope. About the only time that you really see high numbers of participation rates is when people are automatically enrolled in some sort of a default program, as was demonstrated by folks like Leibson and Bridget Majorn that are here at Harvard, where they observed 95% participation rates. So this is quite disturbing, because it's in our long-term financial welfare to actually participate in these 401k plans, particularly as Social Security potentially dwindles. Now, aside from the observation that as the number of options increase, people are more likely to delay or choose not to choose or procrastinate, there's also been a growing number of studies that have investigated the way in which people make choices, or the attributes associated with the choices people do make when they do choose to choose from a larger and larger choice set. By and large, what we observe is that as the choice set expands, people are more likely to rely on simplifying decision rules, are more likely to go with what my next door neighbor suggests, what the waiter recommends in the restaurant, perhaps what some blog recommended. Perhaps I might consult an expert on occasion, or I'll just go with whatever happens to appear more simple, easy to understand, easy to comprehend. Now, there are many contexts in which using such decision rules need not lead us astray, but it becomes particularly disturbing when people blindly follow such decision rules at their own detriment. And so, sticking to the topic of 401k retirement savings decisions, we looked at the people's decisions who actually chose to participate in their 401k plans, anywhere from 60 to 75%, depending on how many fund options they had available in their plan. And here what we found was that as the number of fund options increased, it actually affected their allocation decisions in ways that really were not congruent with what financial gurus would recommend. So for example, as the number of options increased, so for every 10 funds added, there was a 1.3% increase in the amount of money allocated to money markets. For every 10 funds added, there was a 2% increase in the amount of money allocated to bonds. Okay. For every 10 funds added, and this is, I think, the most disturbing, there was a 3% increase that people would simply choose not to invest in the stock market at all. Now, obviously, this year, you would have been better off to not put your money in the stock market. No one's going to debate that. But for long-term financial growth, and remember, these people can't take their money out once they put it in. So for long-term financial growth, particularly for young individuals, and these findings held true regardless of people's age bracket, it doesn't make sense for their future financial well-being to absolutely and entirely avoid the stock market. So this is the first example of the multiple choice problem. People have one-shot decisions. What happens when they have to make a choice from a larger choice set? The stakes become higher. They don't know how to choose, what to choose. They don't know what criteria to choose. They either rely on simplifying heuristics that might lead them astray, or they simply avoid making the decision altogether. The second type of multiple choice problem, which is becoming increasingly more prevalent in our society, is what I call the multi-part decision. In an era in which we get to customize products exactly the way we want,